Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Thursday, April 21st, 2022, and today I'll be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all the episodes of the podcast, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for shows, or if you have stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or others that you trust. Happy to either read those on the show or have you join me on the show to talk about those experiences. And I believe that covers that. And so I think we can just get going today on these stories. So thank you all for being here as always. Whether you're here for the live stream or if you listen to the podcast or our YouTube feeds, really appreciate all of the support. So let's get to the stories here. This one says, so I live with my mom. She comes home every day at around 6 to 8 p.m. Today I came home from a jog, and once I got home, I heard her talking on the phone from her room. She usually hears when I get home and says, "Hey," from across whatever room she's in. That happened again today, so I said, "Hey," back. I tried looking for her, but nothing. She's not home yet. Stuff like that never happened to me, so I'm kind of spooked. It happened right now. So that's where that one ends. That's a short one. But I don't know. When it's voices like that, I've heard. I think the common conclusion that people come to when they hear stuff like that is it's someone or some being trying to mimic the mom's voice. But I think there's also the possibility if it's something that happens almost every day anyway. Um, Again, I think that could just be some kind of a time anomaly where the and or even a residual energy kind of thing somehow. Not to say that it can't be something that's there, someone that's there copying the voice, but just that there are other possibilities there. It is odd that if it's never happened before, if there's never been any other kind of activity, doesn't seem like the writer. Seems like the writer said that they don't really have other things happen. So, I guess maybe though, if it was the first time, you'd have to wait and see how things go from there. At least that's what I would want to do if it was the first time something weird like that happened. At least that's what I think anyway, right now. But so yeah, neat little story there that happened though. At least as far as tell. So I'll go on to the next story. Tonight, but then there's a couple that are longer, so I think it'll hopefully be balanced out, be balanced. So this one says, for starters, I'm a mom of two, a preteen a son of age of 12, and a toddler, daughter, age 3. My bedroom is on the second floor, while my kids' rooms are on the first. It's not unusual for my toddler to come upstairs randomly some nights, but on this night something was different. One night I was sound asleep when I jerked awake and noticed my dog pop her head up too, as if my daughter had come upstairs. I had even heard the sound of my stairs creaking as though she was climbing them. I live in an old house built in the 1940s, so it creaks a lot. I looked behind. I'm sorry, no. I looked down to the end of the bed, and I could have sworn saw my daughter run from behind the wall next to my bed to my husband's side. I waited for the weight of her jumping onto my bed, but nothing ever came. At that point, I grabbed my phone and turned on my flashlight, accidentally waking my husband up while leaning over him to check the floor on his side and around my bed. She likes to hide from us like that, so I figured that's what she was doing. He asked me what I was doing, and I told him that I had seen her run around our bed, but I couldn't find her. He turned on his lamp, and I went to check the monitor in her room, only to find her in her bed, sound asleep. She was wearing different clothes than what I put her in bed in. It creeped me out, but not enough to keep me awake. So it wasn't long, and I went right back to sleep. About 3 days later, I was at my mom's house, and I told her about what had happened. Her eyes got really wide, and she said that something similar had happened to her. My daughter was staying with my parents one day and taking a nap. My mom was in the living room watching TV when she heard the bedroom door open and saw the top of my daughter's head poke up from behind the couch. My mom then called out to her to come sit in her lap, but my daughter never came around the couch. So my mom got up and went to the room my daughter was sleeping in. The door was closed, and there she was, sound asleep. These both actually happened to us about a month or so ago. What could we have seen? Mind you, we never saw the face, but based on the size and hair color, it looked like my daughter. So that's the end of that story. Um, I don't know what that could be. Um, Other than maybe somehow the kid was astral projecting somehow, and with enough force or with enough energy to. That's odd though that the door was opened. The grandma saw the door open, but then when they went to check on, when she went to check on the kid, the baby, or the toddler, the door was closed. So there's something really odd there going on, especially if it's in two different locations. Um, so I don't know. It sounds. If it weren't for the door, I guess maybe. If it was this toddler's toddler somehow astral projecting, maybe I don't know. The door part of it confuses me. Otherwise, I would just say it was the toddler astral projecting somehow while she was sleeping, out of body experience, basically. Um, I guess I don't know. I don't really claim to know anything about this, so maybe it could still be that. And who knows? Um, doesn't sound like a typical haunting though, unless whoever it is really um just able to go wherever they want to. Then maybe. Um, but that's a neat story there. So, but I guess I'll move on to the next one here, and go from there. Thank you all for being here. I see you all in the uh, listening there, so I appreciate that. So let's see here. Next story. Okay, this one says I had just completed 4 years in the Air Force. I was at home, and to the family's great sadness. Oh no, it doesn't say. I'm sorry. Uh, so the punctuation is not the best. At home, and to the family's sadness, my grandmother passed away. I was the only one home when this happened. I was lying in bed watching TV, and the walls started making cracking sounds. These cracking sounds kept getting louder and louder, and the house started to vibrate. While I was freaking out about all of this, I glanced down the hall to witness a pair of red eyes approaching me. There were electrical arcs near these red eyes. I shot into the adjoining room and out the front door, and did not return for a week. I'll never forget the power that was coming from whatever it was. I don't think it was even aware of me, but I definitely knew it was there. Ultra terrestrial, interdimensional, or ghost. It scared the heck out of me. And that's where that one ends. I'm wondering if the writer is tying that into the uh, the, the passing of the grandmother, um, or not. It was something separate, but that's quite the sighting. Uh, Red eyes. I've heard of red eyes, obviously, and a lot of times people associate that with bad or evil. Of course, I don't. I feel like it's hard to say unless you get feelings from it. Um, but and then the electricity coming from or being right near the eyes like that. That is amazing, though. I wonder if the energy, if it was also giving off other energies that were making these sounds all around the house, that was making it seem like it was vibrating. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of energy. Um, Going on in that story, in that experience. So, um, at least the writer got out of there. Um, but yeah, that's an odd one. But let's see here. So I guess I can go on to the next story here. I don't have much else to say about that one because I just don't know what that is. I do like that the writer. I guess I could say I like that the writer was trying to consider all the just different options that it could be. Who knows? So I'll go on to this next story here. This one says, one day my husband came home and said that his friend had recently acquired a house with air conditioning available and asked if we would like to rent it since the house we lived in only had a swamp cooler. And I believe that's like a window, a fan that fits into a window, I believe. But it's not as good as a complete air conditioning system, I don't think. Anyway, the previous summer was horrible, and we suffered through some extreme heat. I was not going to pass on this opportunity, and so we signed all of the paperwork and moved in right away. One early morning, while getting home from dropping off my husband at work, I was suddenly overcome with such a strong feeling of nausea. I thought nothing of it and parked the car. As I stepped into the house, my eyes fixated on the kitchen area. There he was, a man who was see-through. He was bent over, peeking at me from the wall between the kitchen and the living room, hiding himself from the waist down. He was just staring at me. As soon as I saw him, I dropped my keys to the floor. He quickly stood upright and was now hiding his whole self behind the wall. Now, normally I would have screamed, but at this age, I was over it. Having seen so many spirits since my early childhood, I had grown accustomed to these unexpected visits. I turned on the lights in every room, making sure no one was physically there, and went to bed. Later that night, on a ride home from work, I told my husband of this unexpected visitor. He laughed nervously and told me to quit making up stories. I brushed him off because I knew that he had never experienced anything like this before. My brother passed away shortly after this, and we decided to move in with my dad so that he would not be alone during our grieving process. My husband did not work on Mondays, and he decided to finish cleaning out that house and turn in the keys to the landlord, since that was his friend. When I got to my dad's house that night, my husband said that he needed to talk to me. I asked him if he had turned in the keys, and he yelled yes, and he said to listen to him, and that what he had to say was serious. I sat up straight and gave him my full attention, not saying a word. He said he had gone into the rental house and started to sweep the floors. Since there was no furniture inside, he said that every noise echoed. As he started to sweep, he said he heard a man's voice clearly say, "Do you need some help here?" He said it startled him, and he began looking around and saw that no one was there. He said that every hair on the back of his neck stood up, and he swore that it sounded like someone was standing right behind him, talking directly into his ear. He said he ran out of that house so fast he forgot to lock the doors. He finally decided to tell me that the landlord had bought the house because the little old man that lived there previously had died inside the home, and that he had been dead for some days before anyone found him. After having experienced this firsthand, it's safe to say my husband is now a believer. And that's where that story ends. So that's a confirmation in a way right there. It sounds like the wife saw it, and the husband heard it. I heard this person that had passed there. Um, so, and just with the one point I wanted to make with I've heard of some cases where people, before they have experiences, they have that kind of nausea before, and then something will happen, or they'll be sensing something before or after they get that feeling. It's almost like for some people that it affects them, whatever the paranormal is, whatever energy it gives off or it's made of, it affects them in that way, unfortunately, for some reason. I'm very lucky I've never really had that. And I don't have experiences all the time, 24/7. But so I just wanted to point that out, that I've heard that before in other stories of experiences. So, so yeah, that's I like the double confirmation there, or the confirmation anyway, the two experiences in the same house. So, but anyway, I will go on to this next story here. This one says, I live in the Philippines, and here, wakes for the dead are usually done on the streets, especially if you don't have a budget to rent a funeral place. Back when I was little, every time a wake was being conducted in our neighborhood, our front door always slowly opens. Being a skeptic, I always believed it was just the wind. So I didn't have any problems with it. 10 years later, I'm 20 years old now, and it still happens from time to time. And one morning, I was getting ready to head out for a midnight party. Right before I unlocked the door, I remembered that I didn't grab my keys from my room. 3 seconds after I walked away from the door, it opened, slowly, with a 4-inch gap. I looked at it astonished, thinking, how can it be? I am 100% sure it was locked. I slowly walked near the door, and that's when it closed hard, right in front of my face. I got chills and decided to call my friends to just pick me up. I was alone in the house, and I didn't want to touch the door anymore. While waiting for my friends to come, the door kept on opening and closing, hard, and I'm sure it was not the wind. I'm also sure it was no person. I was alone in our house, and all my family members were out for a vacation. I was sitting on our couch, looking at the door, opening and closing over and over again. After 20 minutes, I heard my friends' voices outside, so I got a little bit relieved. Only to hear knocks and my friends saying, "Open the door, it's still locked." I grabbed the doorknob to check out if it is, and it was. We replaced the door now because it got destroyed after a massive storm hit our place, and somehow I still don't feel safe about it. That's where that story ends. I don't even know how to explain that one with the door being locked when the friends try to open it. I did find the story um ironic in a way for me personally. Now I haven't never had experience that dramatic. But for the first, I don't know, maybe 8 years, 9 years that I lived in this apartment, and then still once in a while I feel like it happens, even though I don't know for sure. If I when I have the door locked, I'll find it unlocked, or the opposite. Sometimes if I unlock the door because I know I'm going to have company coming over, they'll get here, and I'll tell them to come in, and they'll try, and the door will be locked. And I never hear anything. And I live in a decently, a pretty, overall, it's a pretty small place. I live alone, except for my cat. As far as I know, my cat hasn't figured out how to do anything with the door yet. But, and so I don't know how it happens without making noise. It must happen very slowly. The parts of the door, the lock and everything must be moved very slowly. Excuse me. But having the door open and close like that, I wonder if it's someone trying to get attention, or if it is somehow spirits coming through, and they're just not even aware that they're opening and closing the door, and it's frightening the writer of that story. Yeah, Logan trying to lock me in. I mean, I wouldn't, she's figured out, she can figure out things, so I wouldn't put it past her. Just a quick story about what this cat has done before. And then I'll get back to the last story here. But a while back, a couple of years ago, I noticed, wow, my apartment is getting cold. It's like my heat isn't working. And I tried turning up the heat up and down and all that. Nothing happened. And so I had to call maintenance after like a day of this. And so they came over and they opened the door to there was a furnace and the water heater are in like one closet. And the maintenance guy came in and he checked it out and he said, "Have you been in this closet at all?" And I said, "No, but my cat was the other day, and I had to get her out of there." And he said, "Oh, okay, because your furnace is turned off." And I had no idea that there was a switch on the furnace inside that closet to turn it on and off. And because I don't mess with utilities, I'm legally blind. I just feel like that's what the maintenance is here for. Um, and so I think what's happening somehow she was whatever she was doing there, jumping around or walking around, and maybe it was her tail. I don't know, but she managed to turn the heat off while she was in that closet, and I didn't even know it. And so I apologized to the guy, and he actually said, "No, it's okay. This happens sometimes." So apparently, some cats will do this. They'll go into that closet, and whatever they're doing, they'll end up turning the furnace off. So now I have to keep that closet locked off so she can't get in there. So otherwise, the heat will be turned off. Um, and so yeah, it's it's just funny how that happened. And I like to joke that my cat was trying to kill me by turning off the heat, making me freeze to death. So, but but yeah. So cats are. Even had my younger sister and I. She's tied some like ribbon and some rubber bands around the handles to the closet. To that closet. It's one of those where you it has it's on a track and you take the handle and you pull it and it kind of folds in on itself and out a little bit. And so we figured if we just had the handles kind of tied up, basically, that would stop her. But nope, she figured out. Logan um, just basically worked at those things until she got them loose enough to still get in there. So that's why now I have an old TV cart, entertainment center, just a little tiny one, in front of that closet now, so that she can't get in there. So, but anyway, so yeah, it's I never underestimate cats, as I always like to joke. They seems at times like they rule the world. So anyway, that's enough about cats for now. I know not everyone is into cats, but um, so I'll get to this last story here, and then we'll be done. This one says the first thing I should mention is that we, my wife and I, see this UFO every 4th of July. No, it isn't fireworks, as it is way too high. The second thing is, no, it isn't an airplane or a helicopter, as in it is up way too high. What we see is just a sporadic flash of light that's constantly changing. There isn't any pattern to it. Some of the time it's flashes are just as bright as a star, while others are kind of dim. The timing of the flashes vary as well. Sometimes 3 or 4 times a minute, or one every other minute. Its position in the sky is also random. It's a big sky, so from my perspective, the flashes, for the most part, stay in an area straight up and cover the size of my hand at arm's length. And at some point, we'll pick a direction and just go. The speed it seems to travel seems relatively slow. We watched it for a good hour plus the first year. The second year, we only saw it for about 20 minutes. We noticed that between the hours of 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Central Standard Time is when we see it. I want to try to get some pictures or videos of it this year. And that's where that one ends. And I feel like the reason I wanted to share this is I feel like I've heard of this before, of strange objects being seen or lights being seen in the sky around the times of fireworks. I can't pull up any examples of it directly, but I feel like I've heard of this before. So these UFOs that are basically hanging around these places where there's fireworks going on at the time. And it seems like, based on this report, it happens every year on that night. So I just happened to find that one, and I thought that was a neat little UFO experience there. That seems to be happening every year. So, but that's going to be it for today. Tomorrow, I'm really excited for tomorrow. We're going to start covering the history of fairs, festivals, festivals, and then fairs and or carnivals, and then amusement parks and the paranormal. That's going to start tomorrow night, and it's probably going to be a 3-part series for the next 3 Friday night shows. And so been doing some research for that. I still have a little more to read, to listen to, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I think that'll be fun, and there's a lot more in that than I realized. In terms of I guess it's one of those things where it makes sense that there's been festivals and fairs all around the world. I just didn't connect that to basically like amusement parks and paranormal events happening there. But anyway, so we'll get into that tomorrow night. So thank you all for listening, and I guess that'll do it. I will talk to you tomorrow night on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care.